Our story begins with a bunch of young boys getting trained by a secret organization. Their heads are shaved and a barcode is tattooed on the back. When you think that can't get any weirder, a couple of priests also show up in the mix. Two of the boys try to escape the facility, but their plans are frustrated by a sniper. Then we meet Inspector Mike Whittier from Interpol. A surprise guest is waiting for him at night, holding a picture of his family in a menacing way. He says they're asleep upstairs, alive and well. All he wants from Mike is the answer to one question. He wants to know when a good man decides to kill. But before the inspector can answer that, we're taken back in time to 3 months ago in Niger. A particularly well-executed hit on a prominent gangster gets the Interpol's attention. At the Federal Police HQ, Mike explains his story. He's been chasing a hitman for 3 years now, but the man keeps slipping through his fingers. Intel says this ghost killer is part of an organization that is so secret that its name is, wait for it, the organization. They have ties to every government, and their sole purpose is to turn little orphans into hitmen, programmed to exterminate. Pretty much a Dalek factory. The ghost killer Mike's after is a man known as Agent 47. He's in Street Petersburg now, setting up the hotel room with a bunch of security gadgets. There is a barcode tattoo on the back of his neck. As he logs into the platform, he's greeted by a female robotic voice named Diana, who says the Africa job is complete and the money is to be wired soon. About his current assignment, there's been a change. The client now wants it to be very public. The target is President Mikhail Belikov. Looking at the extra info about him, 47 checks who are his known associates and finds out he has a brother. Yudra Belikov is an arms and drug dealer. What a family. On the next day, the crowd cheers President Belikov as he comes out of the car. A pretty journalist approaches him to ask about the recent shift on foreign affairs, but he doesn't get a chance to reply. The bullet comes from the top floor of a building in construction. Agent 47 gets rid of the evidence with an explosion, while the people begin to run away from the fallen president in a panic. Once the job is done, 47 gets to the central rail station. He's in line to get a train ticket like any other normal barcoded person when a text from a block number tells him to call the office. Rolling his eyes at whatever fresh hell that may be, he talks to Diana again. A problem has been reported about the last job. It seems like there was a witness, a woman named Nika Boramina. Interpol has arranged to pick her up, and that meeting must be intercepted. Diana gives him the location, but when he gets there, Nina looks at him directly and expresses no reaction. She has clearly never seen him before and cannot really be a witness. That's when the person right next to him just drops dead, and he immediately realizes there's a sniper on the rooftop. It's an older guy who also has the barcode tattoo. Meanwhile, Mike is arriving in Russia with his faithful umbrella carrier Jenkins. They're debating the possibility that what happened to the Russian president was the work of their ghost killer. Mike's been told that a hotel concierge provided a tip on the man's location, having recognized him from a picture. Something is off about that story. First of all, no one had a picture of this guy. And more importantly, Belikov is alive. Now 47 is also shocked to hear that from Diana. He is absolutely sure the assignment was successful. And yet he can see Belikov talking to the press with no more than a band-aid on his forehead. Agent 47 asks who ordered that hit, but Diana is offline. He finally begins to suspect a setup. The inspector meets Captain Gudnaev, who's unable to explain more about their informant, but says they have a location. Mike tells him that this is Interpol's jurisdiction now. That's when Chief Agent Yuri Marklov of the FSB comes to join the party and basically tells Mike to back off and shut up. At the hotel, Marklov's men are already approaching the 5th floor when Diana calls 47 directly. She says she can get retired for this, and Lord knows what that means. She also says his location has been compromised and that the client who ordered the hit was Belikov. Now we see what all the stuff in the room was about. Apparently, our boy cannot leave a place without blowing it up. Landing inside another room through the window, He goes to the hallway and retrieves the guns he had stashed in the ice cabinet. He shoots his way to the elevator and hits the fire alarm before sliding down the cables. Then he fires through the elevator ceiling, taking down all the 5 agents inside. Mike finds him on the 3rd floor, but a confused maid gets in the way. He escapes by jumping out the window into a very conveniently located body of water. When Mike and Jenkins get to 47's room, the Russians have already messed up some of the evidence, like the hard drive that got instantly wiped. But there's still a promising suitcase he had no time to get rid of. They begin to go though that cool assassin kit, and Mike discreetly pockets an item before Markov comes party pooping. He diverts his attention with some inconvenient questions about the assassination, heavily implying his mistrust on Markov himself. The photographs of the incident have been tampered with, and he refuses to believe that the killer has missed. We begin to see Mike is more of a groupie than a nemesis when he says, "My boy doesn't miss." His boy is now knocking on Nika Boronina's door. A bouquet of red roses blocks her view, and he says Belikov sent them, so she opens the door. He grabs her and puts her in the trunk with a dead guy. At a different hotel, he questions her about earlier today. She says Belikov is her boyfriend, and he told her to meet his driver on that corner. Trying to explain what happened before that, she tells him that the president has several doubles. Agent 47 doesn't buy that. He'd assure the man he hit was President Belikov himself. He tells Nina the dude in the trunk was the driver and he had a gun. That was a trap for both of them. At the same time, Mike is discussing the killer's possible next moves with Gudnaev. He narrows down the options into one train station, always reassuring the captain that no one knows this man like he does. The man is obsessed. And he's also right. The whole gang is at that train station. Mike himself, Jenkins, Nika, Agent 47, and even that other bald guy, who also sees no reason to hide the very weird and recognizable tattoo. Even Markov is there, though fashionably late. Lured into the underground tunnels, the older hitman is then overpowered by 47, who keeps asking who has put a price on his head. Realizing they're not alone, he decides to go and check, and soon finds himself surrounded by other barcoded baldies, like a Spider-Man meme. 47 then suggests dying with dignity, and they all agree. Apparently, that means just switching to swords. And it was not too smart of them to accept that idea, since the person who suggested the weapon obviously masters its use. In a few minutes, he takes them all out and then goes back to finish off that first one. Nika is hiding near them, and 47 looks a bit self-conscious about what she's just seen. But there's no time for that now. Jenkins gets to him and becomes his hostage in no time. Mike arrives there too and offers to swap with his buddy. He says the whole terminal has been shut down and a hostage is not such a bad idea. But come on, who's your #1 fan here, 47? Not easily swayed by the fanboy, 47 neutralizes both of them. When he's about to neutralize Mike in a more permanent way, Nika asks him to stop. He takes a moment to override his inner programming by making ugly faces. Then he puts the gun down and tells Mike that she has just saved his life. Markov comes to see Mike by the ambulance. He's still trying to cover up the whole thing and threatens to report the Interpol agents for stepping over the boundaries of Russian law. Mike's reply to that involves a word that begins with F. Coming out of the trunk, Nika complains about such travel arrangements, and 47 tells her to stop whining. He even got her some breakfast. While eating, she tells him a bit more about herself. Belikov purchased her for $300 American. Horrible things happen when she tries to escape. At the FSB office, Markov is asking for a secure line. What he doesn't know is that the F word from Mike was one of his flourish strategies, this time to bug his suit. So Mike and Jenkins are now listening to the conversation. The person on the other side is saying that both Nika and 47 need to be gone ASAP. The agents are shocked to realize that is Belikov's voice, but they also need to be careful. What they are doing now is illegal, so they hide all the stuff when a police car comes. These are men sent by Markloff to escort them to the airport. How thoughtful. That night, Nika meets a certain Agent Smith in Moscow. She hands him the phone so he can talk to 47 and make it look like a date. Smith is from the CIA, and he agrees to share information but refuses to go on record. He says the victim was the real Belikov. His recent political shift made the hardliners angry, so they ordered the hit and replaced the president with an obedient look-alike dummy. Nika then gives Smith an envelope with some photos inside. He recognizes Udra Belikov, the late president's brother. Rumor has it that Smith wants him gone, which means he could use a professional hitman. The CIA agent loves the idea but wants to know what's the tit for such a tat. So Nika hands him another envelope and its contents seem to shock Smith. Agent 47 points out how awful it would be to get arrested in possession of that file. Udra is involved with a German arms dealer named Price, but they have never actually met. Smith tells him that's his way in. They are supposed to meet in Istanbul in 2 days. That means at least 1 day off for the two fugitives. Nika takes that opportunity to try and charm the bad boy. Not surprisingly, 47 is a complete disaster when it comes to girls, and he can barely respond coherently to her advances. He does take her shopping though, so he might not be totally clueless. Then they get to a place called Galata Tower, and he tells her to wait outside. When he comes back, he says they have a dinner reservation at 8 p.m. At the Interpol headquarters in London, Mike and Jenkins are talking about the case. A sketch of Agent 47 has been sent to every significant place in Europe, but nothing has turned up yet. Now Jenkins has something to show the boss. While compiling photos of Belikov's public appearances over the past year, he came across something very odd. Belikov was photographed in Georgia on the same day he was giving a speech in London. So the pair of geniuses finally concludes the man had a double. At dinner, Nika is chatting about her childhood pets and stuff like that when 47 suddenly grabs a drink from the waiter's tray. Politely informed that this is someone else's, he asks if it's going to table 26 by any chance, and the waiter confirms. Impressed by his photographic memory, Nika challenges him to say what color her. He immediately answers that she is not wearing such an item. The steamy moment is cut short by the man at table 26 beginning to choke. 47 tells Nika to ask for the check and stands up. Outside the men's room, he gets frisked by 2 bodyguards before he can come in. Ugly retching sounds are coming from the next stall, and the man is also swearing in German. That's the arms dealer's, Mr. Price. His bodyguards succumb to the hitman's precision, and he gets injected with something that makes him unconscious. Back to their table, he hurries Nika to leave. Upset at his manners, she decides to skip the charming courtship and takes a more straightforward approach in the hotel room. He keeps telling her that she is drunk, and this is a bad idea, but that won't stop her, so he does what any gentleman would. He knocks her out with a tranquilizer. That's a keeper, right? Enjoying that moment of celibatarian peace, he goes to Udra Belikov's place, pretending to be Mr. Price. Udra is suspicious of the last-minute changes to the arrangements, but a suitcase full of money puts anyone's mind at ease. Luckily for him, someone in the staff bothers to check if the visitor matches the description. And it turns out Mr. Price is not a bald guy with an American accent and a distinctive tattoo. So Udra begins his intimidation tactics by going through his best products over the center table. That doesn't scare our boy at all. Why bother with so many bullets and triggers if it's so much cooler to blow stuff? A chaotic battle starts, and the whole place is trashed as Udra's men drop like flies. Completely cornered, the gangster says he'll do anything to be spared, but 47 just pulls the trigger. In London, Mike receives a consolation prize from Captain Gudnaev. It's that suitcase full of gadgets, and Mike is especially puzzled by a large cross-shaped key. There's even a biblical inscription on it, which is certainly odd for the context. Nika and 47 are on a train to Turkey now. He whispers that he has to go now, and she asks him not to. But he must, As long as those people live, they'll never stop looking for her, and she'll never be safe. She wants to know his name at least, but he says he doesn't have one. He was raised in a bizarre cult and has always been called by his identification number. Nika points out that explains a lot. He tells her to get off at the next station and move with the crowd. Meanwhile, Marklov is at a shady lab with fake Belikov. He's talking about the painful procedure he's undergone to look like the president. All that can be jeopardized by that annoying couple who managed to escape. Marklov explains that the organization had sent their best operatives, but their best shot now is to wait until 47 comes after them. News of Udra's death gets to the Interpol, but they're under pressure from high up to drop the investigation. Mike is about to lose all hope when he hears about Udra's funeral. His boy will surely be there too. Once again, he's right. Abducted by 47, Marklov is forced to give his men the order to fire at the president. However, fake Belikov is secretly protected by a transparent wall that doesn't shatter at the first bullet, so he has time to dodge it. Russian authorities release gas to make the civilians unconscious until they find the shooter. Infiltrated as a response agent, 47 grabs the imposter. Outside the building, Mike sees it has the same inscription as that cross-shaped key. He finds it hard to believe Agent 47 has no getaway plan. So he asks about that key and learns that it opens the bishop's chambers. When he uses it, fake Belikov is already dead, but 47 is still there. Mike finally handcuffs his crush, and not many people can say that. Such a lovely fantasy gotta be short-lived. Mike's car gets intercepted by several signature black vans and Agent Smith comes out of one of them. Jenkins tries to protest that the CIA has no jurisdiction. Smith kindly explains that the CIA is not even here, which means whatever happens to these Interpol boys is also not happening at all. But there's nothing to worry about. This was just a distraction so that 47 could escape. Now they're even. And we are finally back to Mike's living room. Agent 47 shows him a body. It's one of his bald-headed pals, which makes it all even easier. Mike will call the authorities saying that 47 broke in and he took care of it. Ballistics will match it to Mike's weapon. He'll be able to save face at work and heal from the obsession. With a sad sigh, the poor Interpol inspector agrees to that plan. And this is the end. This was a recap of the 2007 movie The Hitman by Europacorp, starring Timothy Oliphant and Doug Ray Scott. So how many plot holes did you find? Share them with us in the comments below with #CinemaRecap. Until next time.